Hi everyone, so today we'll be doing this problem called transfer list, which is from this website called Web Dev Interviews. And so basically this problem is asking us to build this list component. There are two list components, a left list and a right list, and then we have to move items from the left list to the right list. So this is a React interview question, and we're going to solve this. So the very first thing that I'm going to be doing is to build the wireframe of the app, and it basically contains like three components: a list component, and then another component that contains the action buttons, and then another component that contains the list of items. So basically a list, action buttons, and then another list. So it's three components, and yeah, it should not be that difficult, but the logic behind it is actually a little bit difficult. So the very first thing is to build the UI, and that's what we're going to do. So let's get started. So as we can see in here, we only have hello world. So what we're going to do first is we're going to return, well, let's first create a parent component, and then we're going to return three components. We're going to return a list component. Oh gosh, that's not a component. A list component. And we're also going to have another list component. This is the right list, and this is the left list. And then in between, we're going to have an actions component, which contains the buttons. Now, obviously, we haven't built this out yet, so let's do that. Let's try to build these out. So let's create list.js and say const list equals arrow function. We're going to say export default list, and then let's also try to like return something so that way we can see something in here. So export default live list. Okay. Now we're also going to build the actions, so let's also have another component called actions.js, and in here we're going to change the names to actions. Here, change this to actions, and change this to actions. And then, so we have now created the two components, and now we have to just import it to the app.js file. So on the app.js, let's go up top and then say import actions from actions, and then import list from list. Okay, there you go. We have our list and actions in here. Now let's try to do a little bit of styling. So let's give a class to this div. Let's call it app. And in our styles.css, let's give the app a height of 100 vertical height, and then we need to kind of like flex it out and make it in the center of the page, flex it out, flex those things out. So let's have a flex selector CSS class flex, and we're going to say this one, the display is also like flex, and we're going to justify. Oh, you know what? Let me go back and put this in the app.js. That way you can see the changes happening as I make it. So there you go. So in style.css, yeah, if I do display flex, display, and then if I do flex, it's going to flex it out. And then we'll say justify content center. That's in the center, and then align items to center. Oh, there you go, it's on the center. Now each of those components has its own styling as well, so let's also create like the class for it, the style for it in here. So list, and then let's have it like actions in here. So list, now let me go and put it for the list here as well, so that way, so for the list, let's have the class name to be equal to list, and in here let's give the list a height of 150 pixels. Oh, there you go. And then we also give width of 100 pixels. Okay. Now we need to have the list with some borders. So let's give a border of solid black 1 pixel. And we also need to give some border radius. So border radius, let's give it 10 pixels. There you go. It kind of looks like it kind of looks like what we need. Let's give 20 pixels to make it more rounded, so it'll be a little bit more like fancy. And so here we need to. So this list also has to be kind of like flexed in between. So we also need to give the flex class to the list as well. So So we go to our app.js and actually not app.js, we go to our list and then put in flex class here as well, so that way it's going to be in between. So there you go. So this looks very similar to what we are actually trying to achieve. Now the next thing is what do we have? So we have our list. Okay, we have styled the list. So now we need to give some space in between the lists because it's kind of like jammed up right now. So for our actions, let's give some padding. Oh, actually, yeah, let's give some padding of like 20 pixels. So actions, let's go put the actions class in the component. So class name equals actions. Okay, so there you go. We have some padding now. Okay, so we have kind of figured out some of those things. So let's now, like in our actions, we need to create those buttons. So let's create those buttons. So instead of actions, we're going to create buttons in here. So button, and then we're going to have like two buttons. We're going to have two buttons. So we have two buttons, and to give the less than and greater than sign, just do this, and that'll give you the greater than sign. And this will give you the less than sign. So yeah, that's a pretty good HTML hack that you can do to get the greater than less than sign. Now we need to have these actions to be in vertical direction, so we have to flex it out. So let's give the flex class to it as well, but then we need to have the flex direction of the actions to be in column. So flex direction of the action to be in columns. Okay, there you go. It's now up and down. We also need to give some gap in between because it's kind of like sticking together. So there you go. That looks pretty good right now. So this is what we actually expect it to be. So we have mostly done the UI. Now let's put the items in the list in there as well. So assuming that we're going to have some of the items, instead of hard coding it, the best way to do it is actually get it from another like JS file. So let's create a data.js, and we're going to export. Oh gosh. We're going to export const items, and the items is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are the items we're going to display. So in our list, we have to display those items. So there is the best way to do that would be so we're going to display by saying we're going to bring items in here. So we have to bring the items in here. So let's so instead of bringing the items in the list, we're going to go to our app.js and then pass in the items as props. I think that would be a better way to do this rather than just putting it directly into list, because I don't think we can actually build out the logic correctly if we do that. So let's import items from data, and in our app, oh actually not in our app, so I kind of have to think about this, dude. So we've imported the items from data, and then what we're going to do is pass it in as props. So items, and then here items equals items. So we passed it in as props, and let's go to the list. And then here we're going to pass it in as items, and in here our items, we're going to iterate through those items and then render it. So items dot map, actually before doing that, let's put it into this HTML. Items dot map item, we're like returning we're returning item. So there you go. We can see our items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need